What's the most elaborate prank someone planned from their deathbed? Standing in the back row of the funeral home with Colonel Whiskers tucked inside my jacket probably wasn't my best decision, but Grandpa's last text to me before he died was, "Bring the ferret to my funeral no matter what anyone says," and I wasn't about to let him down now. My mother spotted the ferret's tiny head poking out during the opening prayer, and her face turned purple like she was choking on her own rage. She marched straight through the crowd of mourners to get to me, catching many stray glances on the way by, and when she reached me, she grabbed my arm so hard I thought she might rip it off. None of this would have happened if I hadn't bought Colonel Whiskers 3 years ago from an exotic pet store that was going out of business. It was an impulse decision, and I did it mostly because my apartment felt empty, and I wanted something weird enough to be a conversation starter at parties. Grandpa would come over for Sunday dinners and I'd catch him sneaking Colonel Whiskers pieces of chicken under the table when he thought nobody was looking, but he always acted gruff about it, saying, "Ferrets are just elongated rats with better PR." He mentioned once that the ferret's eyes reminded him of something from his army days, but he never finished the thought. I taught Colonel Whiskers a few basic tricks like standing on his hind legs because I saw it on YouTube, but Grandpa just rolled his eyes and said, "You're wasting your time on that weasel." The weird part was how Grandpa started showing up at random times during the week claiming he left his reading glasses or needed to borrow sugar, but he'd always end up sitting near Colonel Whiskers' cage just staring at him for 20 minutes before leaving. 2 weeks before he died, he sent me that text about bringing the ferret, and when I asked why, he just responded, "You'll see, love you," which should have been a red flag because Grandpa never texted anyone about anything unless it was to complain about his cable bill. So here stood my mother shrieking that I was bringing diseased animals into a sacred space and deliberately mocking Grandpa's distinguished military service with my pathetic attempt at getting attention. "Everything always has to be about you, doesn't it?" she spat, while telling everyone that I'd always been jealous of the relationship she had with her father and that this was my sick way of making his funeral about me. Colonel Whiskers just sat there in my jacket blinking at everyone with his beady little eyes, confused about why everyone was yelling. My mother grabbed the funeral director by his sleeve when he tried to intervene and yelled louder, saying the ferret was probably rabid and definitely illegal, and she knew for a fact that Grandpa was terrified of small animals ever since Vietnam, which was complete fiction, but she was too deep in to back down. My brother tried to intervene, but she wheeled on him screaming, "She probably trained that thing to urinate on the casket," which was insane even for her, but she kept going, saying I was the kind of person who would steal jewelry from mourners, and she had 17 years of evidence to prove it. She announced to the entire room that Grandpa specifically told her before he died, "I never want to see that disgusting creature again," and that if I had any respect for his memory, I would leave immediately before she called both the police and animal control. The room erupted into chaos with relatives shouting over each other about whether ferrets belonged at funerals, while my mother kept yelling that I was an emotional vampire who fed on family misery, and that's why I brought a rodent to their father's funeral. I kept trying to explain that ferrets aren't rodents, but nobody could hear me over all the screaming. The funeral director cleared his throat and announced it was time for Grandpa's requested video message, which nobody knew about, and the screen behind the casket flickered to life, showing Grandpa in full military dress uniform. He stared directly into the camera and said, "If my daughter is making a scene about Colonel Whiskers right now, then everything is going according to plan." And my mother's face went white. Grandpa continued, "What none of you know is that I've been secretly training that ferret for 2 years in advanced military drill procedures because I needed a mission, and this seemed funny as hell." While my jaw dropped open, he barked, "Colonel Whiskers, attention!" and the ferret shot out of my jacket standing in perfect military posture while everyone gasped. Grandpa rattled off commands and Colonel Whiskers executed a full military funeral drill, including a rifle salute pantomime, while Grandpa explained he'd been sneaking into my apartment 3 times a week using a copied key. My mother stood there paralyzed as Grandpa's video revealed he'd submitted Colonel Whiskers' performance as his official military honors request, with 3 veterans as witnesses, making it legally binding according to the funeral director. Grandpa looked straight at the camera and said, "I spent 6 months training this ferret to outperform my daughter at following basic instructions, and honestly it wasn't that hard." While Colonel Whiskers performed a perfect memorial tail flag folding demonstration using a tiny handkerchief, the video ended with Grandpa saying, "Colonel Whiskers is officially promoted to honorary grandson, which makes him outrank all of you, so deal with it." The ferret saluted the casket, holding the position for exactly 21 seconds, while my mother sank into a pew looking completely defeated.